Good morning, crime community. I'm here to show a few books, take a break from Poisoner in Chief. This is a little traumatic for me. I have one more chapter to read in this book. It's called You'll Never Know What He Was, and I'm not reading it today. So much stuff going on, I don't know where to begin. I think I'm going to just maybe read this book here. You know who that is? The Gambler. I don't know who the author is. I don't really care. He can sue me. I don't give a shit. Okay, that's The Gambler. That's Kirk Kerkorian. This is an amazing story. How penniless dropout Kirk Kerkorian became the greatest deal maker in capitalist history. A fascinating subject in a captivating story, astounding. The Washington Post. A note to the readers. There is an inspiring life story in the 98 years that belonged to Kirk Kerkorian, a boy who ran barefoot in the rich dirt of California's San Joaquin Valley before family financial chaos made him a city boy fighting for his place in the dirty sidewalks of Los Angeles. He was a tough guy who wept at funerals, a humble man privately proud of his accomplishments, a business genius who ignored his MBA advisors, a daring aviator and movie mogul, a gambler at the casinos and on Wall Street, who played the odds at both houses with uncanny skill. But I was already sold on this project the moment I discovered that he started with nothing and inherited nothing, yet he parlayed with nothing into billions of dollars. I never planned to write a biography of Kirk Kerkorian. We had never met. When I started, I knew no one among his advisors and friends. He was little more than a familiar name in the pages of the Los Angeles Times, my professional home for more than 36 years. Shortly after Kirk died, I received a phone call from HarperCollins editor Julia Chaifetz. She didn't know Kirk either, but she just read his obituary in the New York Times. She too wanted to know more. This book is a tribute to her foresight, curiosity, and instinct for a good tale. We both underestimated the challenge. Kirk was also a very private man. He rarely did press interviews, never gave speeches, and treasured his privacy above all else. Many of his business associates still believe that his privacy should be protected even beyond the grave. Consider my first contact with Kirk's chief legal advisor, Patty Glazer. She responded by phone for my very request for an introductory interview, catching my driving up Vermont Avenue on a sunny day near Griffith Park. I said hello, and she got straight to the point. No one is going to help you. No one from his inner circle will be available. We will not cooperate. I regret that adamant decision. Fortunately, there will be major exceptions to the official stonewall. Fortunately, too, Kirk's extraordinary thin public record of interviews and personal insights will be offset by equally extraordinary discoveries. A collection of oral histories swept away in the Special Collections Library at the University of Nevada in Las Vegas was a gold mine. Gaming pioneers, early Kerkorian partners, and then a 90-minute tape of Kirk himself telling stories about the early days of Vegas and his personal adventures. An excellent documentary for PBS called Flying the Secret Sky included excerpts from an on-camera interview with Kirk talking about his experience with the Royal Air Force Ferry Command during World War II. Producer William de Kurt van der Kloot generally shared a full transcripts of Kurt's interview. Another notable gem made available to the author was a wonderfully family video with relatives and boyhood friends talking about growing up with Kirk. It was professionally produced and edited, but never released to the public. Kirk's 30-day wife, the former professional tennis star Lisa Bonder, was among those who declined to be interviewed for this book. She canceled out only scheduled interviews, saying that she decided to tell her own story, to tell it myself, presumably in her own words and in her book or article. However, details of Kirk's fraught relationship with Lisa can be found in the underground vaults of the Los Angeles Superior Court. This is where I read through reams of Kirk's and Lisa's sworn statements, correspondence, and deposition transcripts, all part of a case involving filing tens of thousands of pages. This court battles spanned more than a decade and covered issues ranging from paternity and child support disputes to breaches of contract and invasion of privacy allegations. Tens of millions of dollars were spent on attorneys' fees, media fees. Media coverage was sometimes sensational. Unless otherwise noted, this narrative relies on the voluminous archival record and those factually undisputed details submitted in the court filings by the estranged couple, as well as the numerous expert witnesses and the sworn declaration of family and friends. Thanking the long list of individuals who helped tell the story of Kirk Kerkorian, for the book cannot include everyone, and a number of Kirk's inner circle asked to remain anonymous. But very special thanks go to Terry Christensen, one of Southern California's top lawyers, and for decades, Kirk's closest friend, hired a private eye to help investigate false paternity claims against Kirk and ended up indicted on federal wiretapping charges. Alex Yemendijian, who headed MGM Studios when Kirk sold it for the last time. That's funny. I thought Louis B. Mayer owned it, and then Alan Ladd. But no, Kirk Kerkorian owned it. He was just my neighbor. He lived next door to me. The former accountant, who became one of Kirk's top negotiators, also ran the MGM Grand and was, some said, the son Kirk never had. Don King, the boxing promoter and good friend of Kirk's, they worked together to get a midnight deal at Kirk's MGM Grand Garden for King's client, Iron Mike Tyson. Harut Sasuian, publisher of the California Courier, an English-language American weekly based in Glendale, California, was also president of the United Armenian Fund and the driving force behind Kirk's Armenian charity efforts. Michael Milken, the billionaire philanthropist and investment banker who helped finance many of Kirk's casinos and movie studio deals, Kirk often estranged Mike to write a book about some of the many deals they did together. Ron Falici, Kirk's fitness guru, flight steward, and personal assistant spanning 33 years, the gentle muscle man and a warm-hearted wife, the lately Wendy Falahi, was among Kirk's most loyal aides. Kirk's encouraged Ron to write a book about their adventures. Una Davis, no relation to Bruce Davis, remained a loyal friend and advocate through Kirk's serial romantic adventures spanning 15 years, and she was his wife on the day he died. Jerry Parenchico, CHIO, the Hollywood dealmaker and former CEO of Univision, was a close friend of Kirk's for decades. He broke his own anti-interview pledge to pay tribute to Kirk's life and legacy shortly before he followed his friend into death. Former U.S. Senator Bob Dole, Republican from Kansas, who along with his wife Elizabeth Dole, befriended Kirk and supported many American causes. Kirk became a major supporter of the American Red Cross, and Elizabeth Dole was its president. Jack Holder, a Pearl Harbor survivor and former U.S. Navy flight engineer who worked for Kirk at Los Angeles Air Service after the war. They were lifelong friends. Darrell Goldman, Dennis coach to the Stars. He was a regular at Kirk's weekend games called the Grudge Match, played on Kirk's private courts. He coached the billionaire to national ranking in the senior tennis court when Kirk was in his mid-80s. Manny Mike Agassi, one of Kirk's oldest pals in Los Angeles and Las Vegas, he was one of Kirk's earliest tennis teachers. Mike is more widely known for the father of U.S. tennis legend Andre Kirk Agassi. Gene Kilroy, a straight-talking former marketing executive and boxing aficionado, some to know just about everyone in Las Vegas and opened many doors for the author, Gene once worked for Kirk and for many years the business manager of boxing great Muhammad Ali, who I met his daughter, and his mother knows more about black Muslims than anybody on planet Earth. He was also one of Kirk's inner circle of Vegas friends, a pal, Sister Rose, and a familiar figure to most of the extended Krikorian family and staff. Bobby Morris, the former musical director at the International Hotel, where band backed up Elvis at the pop star's Las Vegas comeback in Kirk's first hotel. Daniel M. Wade, a former CEO and chief operating officer of MGM Mirage, he explained why Kirk's people were so loyal. He always took the risks. He never took the credit. The devout Mormon says he still prays for Kirk every night. The book is nonfiction. All direct quotes and descriptive scenes are based on the recollections of eyewitnesses or on previously published accounts. Many books, news accounts, and magazine articles inform this story, but in one book in particular requires special mention, Krikorian, an American success story by Dial Torgensen. It was published in 1974 and is, to my knowledge, the only other Krikorian biographer ever attempted. It is my tremendous resource for details about Kirk's youth, his war experience, his early business history. Dial had a good fortune to receive considerable assistance from Kirk himself, opening doors to his family and friends who shared great insights, many of which have been greatly resurrected in this version. Most of Dial's successes would precede Kirk in death. Dial was my colleague in the Los Angeles Times, a senior foreign correspondent during my tenure at the paper. He was killed in 1983 during the job of reporting in a Central American war zone. He was an admired and heroic figure to many of us at the Times long before we lost him. Press critics in high and low places sometimes fail to appreciate the daring and dedication of real men and women in the serious business of protecting our right to know. Our right to know. So thanks to Dial, thanks to William Vander Kloot, producer of Flying the Secret Sky, thanks also to every source who shared an insight, whether or attribution or not, and especially thanks to Barbara Hyde Pierce, my wife and 2 Emmy Award-winning television news producer whose research skills, editing finesse, and story advice are all part of every page that follows. Bill Rempel, Los Angeles, July 2017, introducing Kirk Krikorian. Life is a big crap game. Kirk Krikorian. That's just one book. That's my neighbor. When I was a kid, we had the North, East, South, and West. Kirk was on the west side, or on the east side. My Chinese diaspora was on the west side. My mafioso family was on the north side, including Bob Dylan and John Gotti. Don't give Steve any more LSD or PCP, Dylan. And on my south side was the Pendleton family. I'm not here at Camp Pendleton or the Templetones. Here's another book that I don't want to talk about, Stolen Identity. Here's a real getter, man. Try reading that book, Primary Target. You know who that is? That's James E. Files, man. He did the headshot. He is admitted to doing the headshot on your president. Who's he standing under? His grave. My Jesus Mercy, Nicoletti. That's not mafioso, is it? Steve hasn't been mobbed up since the Kennedys visited him when he was 7 years old. Why did the Kennedys visit Steve? He was drowned when he was 7 years old. He spent 20 minutes underwater, but Jesus still saved him. To tell me there's no miracles in my life, from the Krikorians to my Chinese diaspora to Bob Dylan and the Pendletons, I'm surrounded by this. So now we pray for Donald Trump, because he ain't Donald Trump, he's Don Marsdale. I can't continue anymore. I'm going to read this book, this talk about the headshot. As the witness tells their story and have all things in common, and they say fatal headshot came from the area known as the Grassy Knoll. Rusty sent me a copy of his book a few years back, and I recommended it to anyone who wants a comprehensive compilation of the eyewitness recalling what they remember on that historic day. The introduction of his book, The Grassy Knoll Witness, What Shot JFK, is included to give an overview to the next generation of people interested in the JFK assassination that they or may not have heard the confession of Grassy Knoll shooter James Files. Mr. Files' amazing story has been available since 1994, but the mainstream media won't touch it. Files is quoted saying, "Once the government tells a lie, they have to live with the lie." 100 years from now, the history books will still say Lee Harvey Oswald was the assassinated, there was no conspiracy. We hope the truth in these pages offer an alternative to the sad commentary the public has left to the Warren Commission report. On November 22nd, 1963, John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. The youngest man to be elected president at age 43 died when he was just 46 years old. In the years since the tragic event took place, much of the controversy as we know how the president died and was responsible still plagues the minds of many Americans. John Kennedy was looking forward to the 1964 election and knew that he needed to carry the state of Texas to accomplish his goal of re-election. He also had come to Texas to help mend fences within the Democratic Party. On the morning of the assassination, President Kennedy gave a speech to Fort Worth at the Chamber of Commerce breakfast and at his wife Jacqueline's honor. It is beyond reasonable doubt that the Zapruder film reveals the shot coming from the right front. In 1975, Geraldo Rivera aired on national television for the first time the Zapruder film. Two researchers that arranged this viewer were Robert Grodin and Dick Gregory, who punched me in the face when I went to the first Beatles concert. Once the film was viewed by the American public, everything changed. People started to believe that the viewing of this film that was headshot was fired from the right front. The medical evidence and the eyewitness accounts of the majority of the doctors at Parkland Hospital claimed that the fatal headshot was an exit wound from an entrance and the complete right rear portion of the president's head was gone. Paul O'Connor and Gerald Custer were in the attendance at President Kennedy's autopsy in Bethesda Naval Hospital on the evening of the assassination. Both claimed that the right rear of the president's head had a massive hole in the back of it, indicating that there was an exit wound fired from a shot from the right front. Clint Hill, who was Secret Service agent assigned to protect Mr. Kennedy, is seen in the many pictures assisting Mrs. Kennedy as is climbing on the back of the limousine after the fatal shot of the head. Once upon arrival at Parkland Hospital, Clint Hill took his jacket to cover the president's head. In the process of doing this, Mr. Hill observed not only a massive hole in the back of the president's head, but claimed that part of the skull was lying on the back of the seat of the limousine. Dallas Police Chief Jesse Curry confirmed in his book, JFK Assassination File, Agent Hill was trying to get Mrs. Kennedy to let the president be moved from the limousine, but she did not want anyone to see the back of the President Kennedy's head had been partially blown off. The official autopsy photograph of the head showed that the president's head completely intact. It showed a small bullet hole in the top middle of the skull and does not correspond with the observations of the doctors at Parkland Hospital and those present at the autopsy in Bethesda who saw a large hole in the back of the president's head the size of a baseball. These close observations can only lead to the only one logical conclusion. The wound that was observed by the medical staff at Parkland and who's present at the autopsy on the evening of November 22nd at Bethesda Naval Hospital in Maryland was an exit wound fired from the right front. Robert Knutson, who was White House staff photographer, presented at the autopsy that evening. He took several pictures of the back of the head. He had shown the photographs to the right rear of the head completely blasted out of the colleague of his, Joe O'Donnell. What the photograph showed was an intense wound right above President Kennedy's right eye with a very visible hole. The rear of the head showed a large exit wound. Not long after this, Robert Knutson told Joe O'Donnell that he wanted to show him these pictures again, but said this time they were a little different. O'Donnell's observation that they were bullet holes above the right eye next to the temple was covered up, and that the hole in the back of the head now was not in the photograph and showed an intact skull. Then Joe O'Donnell asked Robert Knutson, who did that? Knutson answered I didn't do it. When Robert Knutson testified to the House Select Committee on Assassinations in August of 1978, when asked if there's anything stuck out in his mind about the autopsy photographs, he replied, well, it was a close-up of the cavity of the head. He went on to tell the House Select Committee, here again, I have a mental problem. Here that we were sworn not to disclose this to anybody. The autopsy photographs were altered to make it appear that the headshot was an entrance wound fired from above and behind and not an exit wound fired from the right front. Those who could have changed these photographs, it has been someone high up with the government approval sufficient to alter evidence. At this all times, the Secret Service controlled the photographs of the autopsy. Why were the original autopsy notes destroyed? Could have been that they would have shown the massive exit wound to the back of the president's head. Dr. David Manick told that he had been working on the case in relation to the autopsy photographs and had access to the National Archives at least 9 times to review the materials. From his personal experience, it was his opinion that the photographs were altered in a way to hide and cover up the exit wound in the back of the president's head and to make it appear that the back of the head was intact, and that the fatal wound was fired from the right front of the president's car, causing a massive exit wound in the right back of the side of the head. And in this case, Lee Harvey Oswald did not fire the fatal headshot that killed President Kennedy. With all this, unanswered questions still remained in the day, and with all the witnesses who heard and saw the shot from the front and the government's failure to locate the second gunman, it is clear that the case is not closed. Whether that does coincidence and conspiracy begin? Harry Rusty, A. Yarden, Long Island, New York, March 20th. The Grassy Knoll witness, who shot JFK? Eyewitnesses to the Grassy Knoll shot. The following is the testimony of 12 of over 50 witnesses who said that the shots came from behind the fence on the Grassy Knoll. Gene Hill, I frankly thought that they were coming from the knoll. Then I first saw the flash of light and the puff of smoke. I knew that they were shots that were coming from. S.M. Holland, there was a 4th headshot, one of those shots from behind the fence, and there was no doubt in my mind. There will never be, because I was on the spot. I saw the smoke and heard the report from behind the fence. Lee E. Bowers, Jr., at the time of the shooting, within the vicinity of where the 2 men have described where these were flashes of light. Bill and Gail Newman, as the car got directly in front of him, gunshot, apparently from behind us, hit the president in the side of the temple. Malcolm Summers, after the shooting, I came running across the knoll where I stopped by a man in a suitcase with an overcoat and his arm, and I saw the small machine gun under his coat. And he said, don't have all come up here. You could get shot or killed. Beverly Oliver, I know without a shadow of a doubt that he was shot from the front and the back of the head blew off. Richard Randolph Carr, they came from the front. From where I was standing at the new courthouse, they came from in this direction here, behind the picket fence. Austin Miller, I saw something that I thought was smoke or steaming coming from the group of trees north of Elm Street. A.J. Milliken, I immediately heard 2 more shots come from the arcade between the book depository and the underpass. It sounded like a .45 automatic or a high-powered rifle. Then everybody started running up the hill. Ed Hoffman was related to Dr. Hoffman, who invented LSD. I saw smoke from the rifle. I turned and ran across the fence, holding the rifle as he was running. After the man threw the rifle, he turned around and walked casually away as if nothing was wrong. John Marshall Smith. This woman came up to me and was just in hysterics. She told me they are shooting the president from the bushes, and I immediately proceeded up there. Malcolm Summers. After the shooting, I came running across the knoll where I was stopped by a man in a suit with an overcoat over his arm. I saw his small machine gun under his coat, and he said, "Don't you all come up here, you will get shot or killed." Orville Nix. Most everyone they thought was coming from the same place, behind the fence. This is a poem by James Sutton Files, the author. We're going to listen to a poem by Mr. Files now. The Shots of Dallas. The word went out in early '63. They must stop this crazy Kennedy. 3 men who specialized in death would meet to share a closely guarded secret they would keep. From back east, they called Big Sam in Chicago. Sam's team was waiting for the word to go. He said he had a team that G would never stop. For the special job like this, they had a cream of the crop. The team was led by a man called Nicoletti, and second to him in command, a longtime friend, Roselli. Nicoletti called for his driver, a lad of 21. He said, "Go to Dallas, call me Chevy, and my guns." I was early morning. The rain was slowly falling. Nicoletti told his driver, "I hear destiny calling." He passed noon. The sun broke through. Kennedy in sight. Shots were fired behind, one fired from the right. The word went out on early '63 that we must stop this crazy Kennedy. Nicoletti and Roselli's death. Now I'm old. After 30 years of lies, the truth can now be told. Yes, the truth can now be told. By James Sutton Files, 1993. And if you haven't heard enough of this yet today, I've said enough today. God thank anybody who thinks I'm speaking any truth here, and like and subscribe and share. Have a nice day.